Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing today? I was going through some emails and I was using my laptop, and then I saw this pop up right here where I could just go live and give you some information about the Singapore Mathematics info webinar that I am having on August the 31st. And so I decided I am going to do that. I am going to do a live right here and learn more tools. So I've literally been just looking at the desktop at my dashboard and learning. I'm always learning. I'm always learning. But I wanted to tell you and to remind you I'm listening to Pandora. That's what friends are for, Dionne Warwick, back in the days. So I wanted to remind you that on August the 31st, I'm going to have an info webinar on Singapore mathematics. And you can't miss this. Okay, I have been talking to people about Singapore mathematics for how long now? Over 10 years. Over 10 years. Okay, ever since Dr. Inglewood told me about it when I was, soon after I took his class at the Harvard Extension School. And my geometry class, that just like, oh my goodness, it was hard. It was a hard class. I was studying all the time for, it was a class for learning how to teach geometry in high school, just regular high school. Wow, it was the most in-depth geometry I have ever seen, and the class was just incredible. We used Euclid's book. What was it called? Let me think. So there is a mathematician. His name is Euclid, Euclid. Okay, and he is considered the father of mathematics, geometry in general, because Euclid just made incredible discoveries in geometry. I mean, he was a complete nerd in the slightest. Like, he was more than a nerd. He was like so smart, right? I mean, incredible. The people that lived back in the days that made all this math, it just blows my mind how they had these incredible brains that they actually used. You know, they weren't using phones to like figure out division or multiplication or whatever. They weren't using the computer that I'm using right now. They weren't using calculators. They just, you know, used their brains and they wrote out stuff on paper. And like, they came up with all these postulates, all these theorems in geometry that we're supposed to study. We're supposed to teach our students how to prove theorems, like the align segment, or like, let's talk about something else that you're more familiar with, like a triangle. How does a triangle, how is that even how was that even thought about? Why do we call this triangle a triangle? You know, and these people way in the back in the days, many moons ago, like many moons ago, like before Jesus Christ, okay, so like more than 2,000 years ago, way more, they were coming up with this stuff, you know, and they were so intelligent, and they came up with all these postulates and theorems. In other words, like rules for how you prove that a triangle is a triangle, or that a right triangle is a right triangle, or that you prove that if you have a point and you have another point, then if you connect a line from one point to another, that is a line segment. And why is that called a line segment? And they can prove all these things using postulates in mathematics. And even the existence of a point. Why is that called a point? Like on a map, and you have Uvalde, and it has a little point on a map, right? To say this is Uvalde, Texas, in the United States. Like, why do we even call that little point a point? What makes it a point? I mean, it's just fascinating stuff that once you start talking about it, it really gets you thinking about so many other things, like why from Uvalde to, if you make a line, or you mark Uvalde at a point, and then you go to San Antonio, again in Texas, or to Fort Worth or Dallas or Houston. Why is that even necessary? Why is that a line segment? Because it's not a line, it doesn't go on forever. It stops. It has an endpoint here and another endpoint here. And again, those are words in geometry, like this is called an endpoint and this is the other endpoint. And if you connect the two endpoints, that's a line segment. It's a piece of a line. You can have a line that goes forever, forever to the right, forever to the left. But once you cut it up like that and you take that little part, that's no longer a line. That's a line segment, a piece of a line. It makes perfect sense. But you call those two things endpoints. This is an endpoint. This is an endpoint. And the space between, from the connection from one to the other, is a line segment. It's just a piece of a line. You talk about all these things and so much more, and that just fascinates me. So I took this class with Dr. Engelward at the Harvard Extension School back in 2008, 1 year after I began Math Rocks, because I was very curious, and I knew in my heart that I had not gotten the education that I needed to get as far as geometry was concerned. It was always my weakest subject, and I didn't like that it was my weakest subject. I wanted to learn more, and so I decided I'm going to take this class. Like, it has to be a difficult class, and it was. I mean, it has to like kick my butt, and it did, and I'm so glad that I took it, because I learned so much. And then because of that class, then that's how I started to learn about Singapore mathematics, because it was Dr. Engelward who went to Singapore to teach, and then came back, and he told me that he had taught something that we call, not in Singapore, they don't call it that, they just call it mathematics, but the whole world calls it Singapore mathematics. And people are fascinated with Singapore mathematics, the people that know about it. And I didn't know about it, and he told me about it. And so I started looking at the book that he used to teach in Singapore, which was made in Singapore. So I bought it through Amazon, and I started to study this book, and oh my gosh, it blew my mind. And I thought to myself, why did I not know about this? Why did nobody tell me about Singapore mathematics? Nobody had ever mentioned it to me, ever in my entire education. And I started to study it, and I learned how to teach it. And now, whenever the opportunity arises for me to be able to explain a problem to a student that I tutor, or a teacher that asks me for help, and I can show them using the strategies found in Singapore mathematics, then that's what I do. And every time, it has never failed that I have the lowest of the lowest students, and I teach them a word problem using the strategies found in Singapore mathematics. They go, what? I get that. And they're telling me, show me another problem, tell me another problem. So I'll make up another problem, and I'll show them how to solve it using the Singapore math model method. That's where that came from, the Singapore math model method, because it's a special method that is used to show students how to solve word problems, which we are terrible at in the US. And I don't know about other countries, but in the US, we are terrible at solving word problems. I mean, we can't even get to word problems in school districts because we have so many issues, and the kids don't even know how to multiply, they don't know how to add, all this other business. So we can't even address, this. But I took the lowest of the lowest kids, and I was able to teach them word problems using Singapore mathematics, the math model method, even though they didn't know how to multiply, they hadn't learned all their multiplication tables, they hadn't learned their 5 plus 5 and 12 plus 8 and things like that. They didn't know it, but I taught them, and they got it. And that just I went like, what? Which I had kind of already knew it was going to happen, but I wanted to prove it. So I did it, and oh my goodness, it just blew my mind. And ever since, which was like more than 10 years ago, because I took the class in 2008, and then 3 years later, that's when I found out about Singapore mathematics from Dr. Engelward. And ever since then, I've been preaching Singapore mathematics. I've been teaching the math model method. I bought many books, including the one that he told me, because that one is the best. That one is in storage, and I've got to find it because I've been moving, as many of y'all know, and I have it in storage, and that is like my gem. And like GEM. I cannot lose that book. That is like that means more to me than anything else that I own right now as far as books. That is my book. So I am so excited. And there are some, not many, there are a few people in the US that are teaching this, and they are going to conference. They're like making their own conferences. I have met some of them, and they're training teachers at districts. And I know that there is a lady in particular, I forget her name right now, but she's well known for this, and she's in California, in that area, and she has done many trainings in California. And the thing with her, I actually spoke to her because I wanted to work basically like for her or under her or something like that, and we never got to do it, but I did talk to her. She's very good, she's very smart. But the thing is, I think, is that, it's mostly her, she told me, and so she doesn't quite, she's not able to go and address Singapore mathematics in other places of the country, like in Texas where I live in Uvalde, Texas, and in so many other places. But she does do a lot of work in like Los Angeles area, California, and all that. So I have met some people, and then of course there is also a curriculum that I forget the maker, but it was a while back, like in the 80s, I believe, where they had a child go to Singapore, taught in Singapore, and they knew how rigorous it was. And then they came to the US and they saw the difference. They were like, no, 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 my child was doing a lot more over there than they are doing here. So then they took it upon themselves to make a whole curriculum. So they have a lot of books, and they sell them, I believe, all over the world. And I believe it's just called Singapore Math. So that is a trademark, and I try to not use it ever because I know that's a trademark. It's Singapore Math. And it's also, there's another one called Dimensions Math. Dimensions Math is really good. So Dimensions Math is basically Singapore mathematics, okay? They just call it Dimensions Math. I don't know if it was because of that, because they couldn't call it Singapore Math, since that was already trademarked, copyrighted by somebody. And I don't know who exactly it was, but anyway. So, but the thing is that we still don't have enough people training teachers in Singapore mathematics. And the great thing about this is that if a school district trains, like has their people trained in Singapore mathematics, it doesn't mean that you have to change the curriculum. It doesn't mean that you have to go buy books and books and books. That's not what it means. That is what really attracted me to it. All it means is that you allow somebody to train your teachers, and now your teachers will know when they run into a problem in any curriculum whatsoever. So the one you're using is fine. They'll read a problem, and they'll immediately say, I can teach that problem using the math model method. And then they go and they do the math model method, which I can show you in another video. And it's just amazing what the students will learn. Like, instead of the teacher teaching it the normal way, the usual way, not the bad way, but just like, we have certain ways that we were taught as teachers that taught me, and me that taught students. We have certain ways, many times very similar in the United States. That's just the way we were taught. But I am telling y'all that if you learn the techniques that are used in Singapore mathematics, in the country of Singapore, if you learn these techniques, and if teachers learn how to read a problem, a word problem, it could be any kind of word problem that you teach kids, or that students learn in second and third and fourth and fifth, sixth, all those grades. Pretty much any of those problems that students are given, you can teach using the math model method. And it makes a world of difference. Like, instead of just presenting the information very abstractly, which is what we do in the United States, we start throwing variables at kids, in fifth grade, sixth grade, something like that. And sometimes, and that is a big thing, like, you throw variables. I remember when it was done to me, and I'm going, what happened here? What happened to math? I'm getting letters. What's going on here? And I was like confused. I'm like, when did we start using letters in math? What? And I had to pay very close attention to finally figure out, okay. And I'm sure the teachers were trying to explain it, doing the best that they could. But I remember to this day just having that like mini questions because you're moving into algebra and things aren't the same, and now you're using variables, and what do you mean that variables represent numbers? I don't see any numbers here. And then you take the SAT and it blows your mind away because when I was taught in school, I was not prepared for the SAT. We didn't do that back then. We didn't have preparation. I graduated in 1992. We didn't have preparation schools for SAT. We didn't have all these tutors training or helping kids with the SAT. It was more like, here, we're going to teach you and good luck. You know, it's like, go take it. That's the way it was. So if you had, you know, a teacher as a mom or a dad, then you had a little bit of an edge because they knew a little bit more, and maybe they could even tutor you, especially if you had like a math teacher as a mom or a dad, and you know that gave you the advantage. But other than that, like we were pretty much on our own. You know, we had to figure it out. We didn't have after school tutoring for SAT. We didn't have before school tutoring. You know, none of that. None of that. We just did it. And those tests were more rigorous. They were. And the thing, what I want to say is, those tests, had we been taught how to solve word problems using the techniques in Singapore mathematics back then, if our teachers had known, then we would have done a whole lot better on the SAT, the ACT, the GRE, and all those tests. Because Singapore mathematics is taught in a way that it makes a child think about what they're doing, and not only think, but it shows them why the numbers are doing what they're doing, and it shows them why you need to divide. Why is this problem, why in this word problem you need to divide versus multiply? And as soon as you teach them using the pictorial method, which is just pictures, so you're using them using a bar model, so it's just a long rectangle basically, and it's called a bar model, and you use that a lot throughout this, especially when you're showing kids how to solve word problems in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. Once they see that bar model, then they understand immediately why they have to divide, or they understand why they have to first add and then divide, or why they have to first add and then multiply by something else, or would they understand why they have to take this piece and why this piece is called X and why this other piece is called 2X. It is so, it's like so easy. It's so easy when you show students how to do this, and it doesn't even take, like, to train a teacher is not going to take you like a whole year. It is not. It is something that teachers can learn in a training. They can learn so much, just like even just a day's training. They can learn so much that they can like immediately implement. And they don't have, the school districts don't have to buy all these things. They don't have to do anything but pay the trainer. That's it. That's it. You know, like somebody like me, I would just like train you, and now I'm gonna send you all these resources throughout. Like I'm not just gonna leave you. I'm gonna send you all these resources. You know, like, and when you have questions, ask me. Please ask me. You know, because I am not gonna leave a person hanging. Like I wouldn't do it to a student. I wouldn't do it to a teacher. I mean, it is like, why we haven't done this, I don't know. It's beyond me. I don't know why the United States has not picked up on this. Singapore mathematics began in the 1980s in Singapore because the students were doing very poorly in math, like super poorly, like the way we are right now in the United States. It pretty much sounds the same. They were doing very, very bad. So the Ministry of Education got all these people that were experts in their field in mathematics. The Ministry of Education got all these people together and basically said, we have to develop something for our country, for our children, because they're not getting it. They're not getting it. They were not at the top at all. Were not. So they developed strategies of how they could best teach the students in Singapore so that they would get it. They would understand the math and retain it and be able to apply it in other situations, etc., etc. So in the end of all that, they developed what the world started calling Singapore mathematics. People found out about it, like I just mentioned. People went to Singapore and they were like, whoa, like, what is this? Like, my child is actually learning a lot of math and they're understanding it. And what do you mean? And they started studying, and people from the US started to hear about it, and they saw it, and they brought it, just much like my professor, Dr. Engelward. And then Dr. Engelward teaches in the extension school at Harvard, so he makes his students well known about, like he tells them about it, so then the students further spread it like I did. And oops, sorry. And that's how it got around. Like, that's how the word gets around. And oh my goodness, like, I suppose that it's just lack of people telling others about it. So I started telling others, and I started telling others that I knew. I started telling parents. Of course, I started teaching students the how to work out these problems, and I started doing conferences. So I started training teachers at conferences, like big conferences, mathematic conferences in Houston, in Dallas, and in San Antonio. I pretty much kept to Texas, but I want to continue. So I'm not just like going to be in Texas. I know that I will train others, but right now I have only trained teachers in Texas. But I know I do not need to be further convinced. I have seen it with my own eyes that this works. And I don't think that I will ever rest until I know that more teachers know these strategies, because I know that teachers can benefit from it. And I know that teachers, like, if I didn't say anything, it would be a disservice to people, because I know it and I can't keep that information to myself. I know it works. I know the students get it. I know the teachers get it. So literally, like, why would I keep this information to myself? So I am so happy, you have no idea, that I finally have some kind of following where I can get people from all over the world involved. It has taken me several years to get to this point. It doesn't happen overnight. I didn't just open a Facebook account yesterday or last week. I've had my Facebook accounts for quite some time. I began in 2016 when I was at UC Berkeley in California, and I wanted to make sure that I had those memories somewhere stored. So literally at UC Berkeley, I was doing social emotional learning, a whole week of training, and that's when I started. And so I have just been gaining followers since then, people that are interested in math, or people that were interested in social emotional learning, or just people that were interested in STEM, because I talk a lot about STEM. And then as I started slowly putting more information out, I started putting more information about Singapore mathematics, and that's basically what I've done since 2016. I just try to inform people about different aspects of mathematics, what other schools are doing, what other countries are doing, NASA, a lot of NASA activities, and I mean, just anything that helps. I try to put it, if it helps, I try to post about it, and especially if it helps students and it helps teachers. So this is just another way that I am trying to do my part in society to help teachers that teach math. We are in a pickle here in the United States. It is not good. So I think that maybe it's a God sent thing because I am a Christian. I love Jesus and I love God. Okay. And I totally believe that they have helped me, and they have. I know. And so I know that there's a reason for this, and I know that that's why now people are more interested. And so today, literally, like, I was just here checking my emails, listening to some music, and just kind of chilling, but doing some work. So this opportunity came up, and I said, why not? Just to inform people, because they need to know. They need to know. I think that it would be tragic if I had this information, this knowledge, and I wouldn't share it. It would be tragic. It's almost like me withholding information from my students if I knew something. That just would not go well. It wouldn't serve them. It wouldn't help them. It would not be fair to the parents who pay me, etc., etc. So this is the same thing. It wouldn't be fair to teachers, especially beginning teachers that are just starting. It wouldn't be fair for others who have been doing this for a longer time like me to just withhold information. And I never want to do that. I never have done that. And so that's my goal, is to just inform as many people as I can about Singapore mathematics, especially beginning teachers, so that they will be able to say throughout the year, and that we'll be able to see throughout the year that they are making a difference. because one of the reasons that teachers get so depressed and all kinds of things in school is because they don't see how they're making a difference. Who doesn't want to make a difference? I want to make a difference. Teachers want to make a difference. Of course, I was a teacher for years. So, of course, and yes, I know that my colleagues or just people that I know, friends that I have that are teachers, and parents want their children's teacher to teach them well. So, in essence, all of society needs good teachers, and teachers want to be good teachers. But if teachers are not given the right tools, it's like if you need to change your oil on your car and you don't have the right tools to change the oil in your car, you're not going to be very successful at changing the oil in your car. It's the same thing. You could still be a mechanic but not have the right tools to do what you need to do to fix a car. And you wouldn't be able to fix it as well as if you had the right tools. So if we have teachers that are good teachers, but they just not are aware of these strategies, they need someone to tell them. These are strategies that work. They are researched. Because they are researched, Singapore students score #1 or #2, sometimes only beaten by China, in the PISA examination. PISA. That is a huge examination that's given every 4 years across the world. Selected students are picked to take this examination, and every time the Singapore students or China are #1. And Singapore has been #1. So they literally went from the way we are in the US to #1. I mean, that says a lot, and I knew it when I saw it, and that's when I started sharing. And now, thank you, Jesus, that I can share with so many people. Yep. So I'm looking forward to sharing more information with all you guys on the 31st. Please tune in. Please tell others, because you need to register. I think I put the link here, but if I don't, I'll put it somewhere. And it will be via Zoom, because I decided via Zoom will be better. I can share much more information. I can easily, Facebook has things here that I can share and whatever, but I'm just not as familiar with it as I am with Zoom. So I think Zoom is better in this case, and I will just continue fiddling with Facebook and learning all the things here that I'm seeing on my screen. But we'll do a Zoom. So please register, and then I believe that when you register, you do get the link, but if you don't get the link, let me know, okay? So let me know if you register and you just don't have the link yet. But I know that you do have to, register. Click a button to say register and then fill in information and all that. And then I will be live via Zoom, okay? So we'll do that. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm excited. I'm excited because we need to curve, or not curve. We need to shorten the learning curve of our teachers. There is no reason for teachers to spend 20 years doing what they're doing until they finally find out these strategies. Like they shouldn't. If they are beginning teachers, we need to help them immediately so that we can keep them in our district, so that they don't leave us. Because when they don't feel supported, they will go. They will go. So if you as a district are providing the help that they need, they're not going to leave you. You won't have the big turnaround. So you will save money in that sense, because you won't have to be searching for more teachers. I know that because it happens here in Uvalde. If we don't give teachers the support, especially as far as their teaching is concerned, because that's #1. If we're not giving them that support, they will find another place. They will go. They will go. And that will cost the district a lot of money. A lot. You have to advertise. You have to find the right people. You have to interview them. And then finally, maybe, and maybe not, keep them or not. So yeah, this is a great way. I do believe it is a great way also to keep your teachers. To keep your teachers wherever they may be in this world, So I hope that I can help you. I want you to attend this and tell others. Please do tell others, okay? All right, y'all have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later, okay? Bye. Let me see where I end this live, because this is the first. Okay, I see it. This is the first time that I do it here from my laptop. Most of my lives, no, all of my lives come from my phone. Okay, y'all have a great Sunday. All right, y'all take care. Love you. Bye.